It's time to head back to the RPG heartland of Hyrule with The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. We've seen many incarnations of Hyrule over the years, but this one revives the top-down view. In fact, the exact same overworld from A Link to the Past on the SNES, which many fans still consider the best in the Zelda series.
It may seem like a cynical grab at nostalgia, but the good thing is that A Link Between Worlds has so much more to offer than just a rehash of some fondly remembered locations. And unlike a lot of RPGs, this one really rocks along. I was smashing pots in no time.
You begin as an apprentice blacksmith on a routine job to deliver a new sword. But within minutes, trouble erupts and you must wield the sword yourself to fight through a dark dungeon beneath Hyrule Castle. You end up face to face with the villain behind the evil disturbance, Yuga, who's got a nasty habit of turning people into paintings.
While the specifics of the story are totally new, it taps into a lot of classic Zelda themes. You're the inexperienced lad thrust into the midst of adventure, with Princess Zelda recognizing something in you and entrusting you with the sacred items you'll need to battle evil.
Yeah, it's textbook Zelda stuff, but I was surprised how many tweaks they've made to the formula. You know, those older games were so rigid about the order that you tackled the dungeons in. You'd be drip-fed a new item at the end of each dungeon, like, say, bombs, and then you'd use them to blow open a door to the next area that you needed to access. But that's all changed, because now you get most of the important items really early on.
Yeah, and I think that was a smart move, because I think we're all a little tired of the same old pattern of progression in these games. The shopkeeper Ravio lets you rent the staple items, from hammers and hook shots to bows and boomerangs. So now you're free to access the dungeons in pretty much any order you want. When I realised I had that freedom, I was so relieved, Tex.
It's liberating, isn't it? Especially with the new fast travel thrown into the mix. From any point in the overworld, you can just ring a bell for your own broomstick taxi.
And if you're wondering if having all of these early tools removes some of the challenge, that's not really the case. These dungeons are as fun to explore as ever and just as devious. Thanks in big part to Link's new ability to turn himself into a living mural. This lets him cling to walls like a chalk Spider-Man, so he can walk across gaps or around corners, and I think it adds a new dimension to your exploration.
Yeah, it works so well with that top-down view as well. I found myself really scouring each room to see if there were any obscured walls I could get into. You can even use it to squeeze through tiny cracks, so you're constantly thinking, where can I use this?
It's a clever addition, isn't it? And they've taken advantage of this, and the fact you've got those early items to create a lot more variety in the dungeons, where you're flicking back and forth between abilities. There's so much creativity on show, and Hex, you know I'm not normally a fan of the 3D, but I really genuinely liked it here.
Me too. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that this is the best use of the 3D we've seen so far on this handheld. The top-down dungeons gain so much extra depth in 3D, and it looks beautiful. It even helps the gameplay, because you'll often be judging platform heights when flicking into your painted mode. Yeah, I can't believe it, but I left the 3D on the whole time.
I also liked how little it holds your hand. You really have to sniff around before you stumble into the next plot point, which only heightens that sense of exploration that I find so wonderful about the Zelda games. And I think it was right to make the deaths more costly. Most of the gear you have is only rented, so when you die, it's all taken back by the shopkeeper.
Yeah, when I knew it had been a while since I'd saved, I was really desperate to stay alive in fights. There was no way I wanted to fork over a big pile of shiny rupees to rent fresh gear, or worse, reload my game. You know, A Link Between Worlds has made a few really big, risky design decisions like this, but I think it really pays off.
Yeah, me too. I think they've done a great job of rewriting aging rules, but still delivering on the very essence of a Zelda adventure. I was surprised at how much I like this game. I'm giving it 9 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's so well peppered with familiar faces and nods from previous games as well. And that classic music has been so beautifully recreated. I really adored this. It's 9.5 from me.